When I first got my hands on the script, I was super excited about it. I, one, know that bees are very important to the survival of us and our planet, so I was intrigued with the bee knowledge and mythology and plot line, having Adam Clay be a beekeeper, but then also him being a different kind of beekeeper. So I was intrigued by the duality of those two things at play. And I think Verona's storyline was also really intriguing to me. I think this woman we meet her in an extreme moment of grief and shock and sadness and the loss of her mother, and then she kind of has to put that aside to do her job and do her duty and the duty that she swore an oath to do. And it's conflicting, and I love the rub that she has with knowing what's right and doing what's right and doing what she swore an oath to do, but also feeling conflicted because here's a man who is taking a different route and a route that she's not supposed to take, but he's actually getting the job done and getting the job done a lot faster than she is. And so I love that conflict that is living inside of her with coming into the orbit of Clay and how he does things, but then also being stuck behind, bureaucracy and all the red tape of being a government official and a government employee. In playing Verona, she's heartbroken. She's devastated. She just lost her mother in a very shocking way, and she's needs to grieve that, but we also meet her in a moment where there isn't time to grieve her mother because this massive investigation is unraveling right in front of her eyes, and she's kind of in the middle of it, and she is closely related to one of the main and the initial victim, which is her mother, but then she also has this interesting relationship and dynamic that is evolving throughout the film with Adam Clay and his revenge journey that he's on. And I think she's conflicted. I think the people that he is acting out his revenge on are people that are criminals and crooks and people that are stealing money from vulnerable people and ruining many, many lives, especially, the elderly and the vulnerable and people that are easy targets, and that disgusts her. And so he's doing the dirty work, and I can't say that she doesn't not agree with what he's doing, but I think she also has to take a different route because she's not she herself is not a beekeeper. She is a special agent, and there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of red tape. So I think she's conflicted, which I think that is so juicy as an actor to get to play and get to explore the conflict of moral conflict in general is really juicy. And also, who doesn't love a revenge story? Love a revenge story. Portraying Verona has been really exciting, and there's a lot to chew on. I think when we meet her, she's just arrived very shortly after the death of her mother, and that's a shocking discovery. And her and her mom, I believe, had a very complicated relationship because she also lost her brother in action a couple years before, and I think so she does have an estranged relationship with her family. And so I think she finds herself at this crossroads of needing to discover what happened to her mom and uncover the reasons why she did what she did, but also how Clay is involved and how involved he is. But also having to put her personal feelings aside so that she can be the one that's on this case, because a lot of times you're not allowed to mix business and your personal life. And so I think she really has to keep a lid on her grief and her emotions so that it doesn't get in the way of her work. And so she can, go on this journey, which I do think in turn is the case of a lifetime for her, at least in this stage of her career. This is something that her and Wiley have been working on for years, and they've gotten no traction, and they've made very little discoveries. And then sadly, the death of her mother kind of kicks off, blows open the lid on the whole thing, and involves Clay. And Clay is on a a revenge journey, and I think who doesn't love a good revenge journey? It's a tricky one. I think it's tricky because I think he is not bound by the red tape and the paperwork and approvals by, people with classifications that that Verona and Wiley don't have. There's a lot of steps involved to being an FBI agent and taking down criminals and hackers and con men, and Clay is skipping all of that and getting the job done. And it's definitely not the way that it should be done, but I think Wiley and Verona, and especially Verona, really struggle with the morality of that. And yes, he's getting the job done, and yes, he's doing things that they would never be able to do in the positions that they're in, but he's also, running around taking down entire office buildings with all of their employees in a single moment, and that's not the ideal way to take down these regional call centers and criminals and crooks. But I think that's what's so fun to play with is the conflict between the job is getting done, but it's not getting done by Verona, and it's not getting done in the way that she's supposed to do it. So that's fun. I think it switches hands every now and then. I think Wiley's really concerned about Verona and her well-being and how she's handling this and how she's handling the grief and the loss of her mother and her ability to kind of suppress that grief to work this case. I think that concerns him. I think they are as close to brother and sister as they can be. I think they deeply care for each other and respect each other and look out for each other. But I do think that they feel the same about Clay. I think they both see that without him, they wouldn't be as far along in this case as they are at this point in the movie. And I think it's also frustrating because Clay leaves a lot of wreckage for them. So they're always kind of arriving after the fact and when it's a little bit too late and the damage is already done, which I think is really frustrating. But I do think as the movie progresses, they do start to, and I think especially Verona, start to question this oath that she's taken and is the government that she works for and the people that she works for and all of the rules that she has to abide by, is that actually getting the job done? Is that actually making a difference? And so I think they both start to question that throughout the film. The Beekeeper is played by the one and only Jason Statham, and in the movie his name is Adam Clay. And Adam Clay keeps bees, which is amazing. I'm always envious of beekeepers. I think I'm frightened of bees, but we need them. They're very important. But I understand beekeeping. I think, especially for Clay, I think there is a level of purity and purpose that exists and is vital to the success of a beehive to produce honey. And I think it's calming for him because not only is he a keeper of bees, he is also a beekeeper, which is an extremely classified program of mercenaries, assassins, fixers, cleaners, you name it. So I think having lived a life like that, which is, I'm sure, nothing but extremes, having, his real life and his personal life be something that is very calming and requires a lot of dedication and focus and patience, I think that's probably exactly what he needs. I'm having the best time working with Jason Statham. I will admit I was nervous because he's a legend and he is, a massive action star and actor and you never know what to expect when meeting people that you've seen in so many movies and are iconic in Hollywood, and it's just been so lovely, and he's so personable and so down to earth and our first day on set together was one of the first scenes in the movie, which is a pretty intense scene for both of us. It's after the loss of my mother, and you know, him kind of being there for me as moral support and kind of, you know, unraveling himself just enough to let me in and intrigue Verona. But you know, and it was just the two of us sitting in a kitchen drinking coffee, having a really intimate two-hander scene, and it was incredible. I think he's such an incredible actor, and he's a really good listener on screen and in real life. We've just had some great chats, and I think this movie for him, I think it was really important to David to dive into the human side of these characters and their emotional journeys. And yes, there is all of the action and all of the fights and the guns and the blood and like everything that you want in an amazing action movie, but there's also this really deep layer of emotional, like a very deep emotional well for these characters to dive into, and it's really exciting, and it's been really fun to uncover that as we go and kind of get to see everybody progress in their emotional journey on this film. Verona Parker would be nothing without her partner Wiley, played by the one and only Bobby Naderi, and it's been it's been the best time. We from day one, him and I just got on like a house on fire, and you know, we are in essentially every scene together and have to have, you know, this very close, intimate brother-sister energy connection, inside jokes that has to, you know, reach through the camera. And I don't know how David did it. I'd never met Bobby before we started working on this. We never chemistry read together, but they cast both of us separately, and from the moment that we met, we just both knew that we were just gonna have the best time, and we just make fun of each other all day and laugh and really just play off of each other every day at work and kind of tee up the joke for each other when, you know, when it's time, and I just think it's organically turned into this great friendship on and off camera. I'm feel so lucky to have been put in his orbit and get to know him as an actor, because I think he's an incredible actor and partner, and yeah, he's all right. I mean, this cast is pretty stacked. We've got Jeremy Irons, we've got Jason Statham, Bobby Naderi, we've got Josh Hutcherson, who's a dream, such a sweetheart. We've got Minnie Driver, and then the also legendary Phylicia Rashad is playing my mother. Can you even? Hello? What? I mean, what? This cast is insane. I think when you're embarking on a movie that is being directed by David Ayer, starring Jason Statham, you know that the level of stunts and action is going to be through the roof, top notch, and our stunt team has absolutely killed it. It's unbelievable. I don't get to do a lot of fighting, but I do a lot of running around with a gun and multiple guns, and a couple other projects I've had, you know, some tactical training, but not to the level I've been lucky enough to have on this. Getting to work with firearms and just, you know, furthering my education, because you know, playing an FBI agent, you need to look like you know what you're doing when you're running around with a giant weapon strapped to your chest. I'm just trying to make the FBI proud, I suppose. So it's been actually really educational, and you know, I don't have a lot of knowledge of weaponry, so I've just been kind of soaking all of that up and trying to feel and come off as authentic as possible while, you know, running around and chasing Jason all over the place and running upstairs and downstairs and busting through doors, and it's been really exciting and really kind of on the fly, which, you know, I'm usually not very good at, but David is kind of changed my perspective on just being in the moment and having things happen on the fly. Especially when it comes to, action and fighting. A lot of that is so, rehearsed and choreographed, and because it has to be, it's dangerous. So it's been a perfect mix of, it's been a perfect mix of just in the moment, and also, lots of training beforehand, so that, in the moment we have all the information we need to have so that we can kind of pull off the impromptu moments to the best of our ability. I have nothing but amazing things to say about David Ayers. This experience has been just so fun and lovely and exciting, and I believe that energy always trickles down from the top. And I think the moment that I met David via Zoom, I just could tell that we were going to get on great and have a great experience. And he's an actor's director. I think he really cares about his actors and wants them to feel as comfortable and as prepared and as set up for success as possible. And coming from theater, we rehearse constantly. There's so much rehearsal, weeks and weeks and weeks, months, even years sometimes, before, a show gets put up on Broadway. And it's kind of the opposite in TV and film. You don't get a lot of rehearsal time, but I think that is something that is really important to David. I think he loves rehearsals. He loves trying new things. He loves being in the moment also. And so I was really excited by that and his process. And I think he's really gotten me out of my shell of feeling like I have to understand and have control over every moment all the time. Because, so much of being an actor, you can only control really what happens between action and cut. Like, that's the little control that we have, is kind of in these like finite moments. And so I think trying to control those moments as much as possible, but David's style is different. It's very like, let's just see what happens. And I've really learned to like love that and kind of live in, sometimes it's chaotic and there's people running all over and there's all this action happening and helicopters are flying and it feels crazy. And he kind of encourages you. He's like, yes, this is insane. So let's live in that. That's okay. We don't have to normalize that, giant helicopters are flying and there's people running around everywhere. And, I think I've really enjoyed getting to explore that part of myself as an actor, and also getting to work with him and getting to know his directing style. And it's unlike any director I've ever worked with. And I just admire him so much, and I think he's so good at what he does and how he sees shots and moments and angles, and I trust him completely, and I just think he's so wonderful at what he does, and I've felt nothing but safe and inspired and encouraged and trusted and protected through this whole process, which as an actor, like, that's truly, it's very rare, and yeah, I'm just grateful for that. I think people are going to really love this movie. It's exciting, it's thrilling, it's so action-packed, it's unbelievable, but I do think that there is a deep level of heart and emotion and groundedness in this movie that's really exciting, and there's a ton of moral conflict, which who doesn't love moral conflict, and who doesn't love revenge?